Hi, I'm Jane Garibay, your state representative from the 60th District, Windsor and Windsor Locks, and I'm here with special guests today to talk about TCI, the Transportation Climate Initiative. I've been receiving emails, with all kinds of ideas and all different of opinions, so I wanted to get some of the facts about the program out there as we understand it. So I would like to introduce Susan Miller. She's from the president of the Climate Action Committee or team here in Windsor, and also Ann Hulick, our Windsor native, who is now the director of the Clean Water Action. Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
Jane.
you.
So glad to have you here. So I'm going to start with the most inflammatory when I'm at the mobile station and I hear over that loud voice, you know, your taxes are going up, it is a tax, etc. Which one wants to take that out? It is not a tax, it's a fee on the energy companies on oil.
Right.
It is a
Right.
fee, right? Which one of
Correct.
you want to talk to that?
Susan, you go ahead with that one.
Yep. I will. Thank you for the question, Jane. So TCI, the Transportation and Climate Initiative, is a cap and invest program. So what it does is it tells the fossil fuel companies that they have to pay for their pollution, basically. They have a certain amount allow them to produce each year, and that's going to ratchet down year by year. They pay fees to the state in order to allow them to sell that fuel. And the fee is to, again, to invest in communities, to reduce the carbon dioxide burden, reduce the pollution burden, change our infrastructure, make our environment more energy safe for the future. But that money that's charged to the fossil fuel companies is a fee. They have a choice as to what to do with that fee. And just as a little reminder, ExxonMobil just by itself earned $4.7 billion in profit in the second quarter of this year alone.
In the second quarter only,
Just
right?
the second quarter. That's just one company. So to say so what they can do with that fee we put on them, they have a choice. They can eat it as their moral obligation to the future of the earth, or what people suspect is they're going to turn around and put it back on the consumer. So that money is being channeled through them and called a tax to make it an inflammatory, to make people upset about it, to have pushback on it, when really the responsibility for this is on the fossil fuel companies themselves.
So I would imagine, just like many of our energy companies, if they took a 5% decrease in their top wage earners bonuses, they would be able to pay that. Because I'm just a regular citizen, as you guys are, we're just
Right.
communities, we're, I'll call us just average middle class. So we feel the fees also.
Right.
And when I heard that at the gas station, I was like nuts, and that's what people are hearing. And then I get the emails, and they could very easily still be very rich people and take the burden off the middle
Absolutely.
working class people.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
And to put some parameters around that, I mean, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection has looked at what's likely to come out of this, how are they likely to transfer that back to the consumer. And their estimate is that it's most likely going to be 5 cents in when the program begins, and maybe up to 10 cents max. So this is not dollars on top of dollars. It's a small amount of money. Again, I don't agree with it at all. I think the fossil fuel companies should eat it. But the transfer back to the consumer is very slight. And frankly, given how much our gas prices fluctuate from week to week, I don't know that we could even tell that there was a fee
And I
our
think
gas
people are
prices.
about it now a little bit more because the gas prices are high.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That they're starting
Right.
to come up a little bit, so it makes you think about it more.
Hmm.
So we know that they can absorb this very easily, very, very easily, and
Yeah.
not pass it on to the consumer. So, Anne, what can we do with this money? What our goal is for 2050. How will this get us there? And that is a choice we have to make. Are we willing to
Right.
invest so that our children and grandchildren have a planet to live on?
Exactly. So Susan's exactly right, Jane. This is a choice of the fossil fuel companies. And what the TCI program at this point plans to do is take that money and not just put it into the general fund to be used for whatever purpose, that the state needs, but into a special transportation fund that will be directed to municipalities all across the state. And those revenues coming to the municipalities will be used for improving infrastructure, improving, electrifying infrastructure, making more opportunities for safe, complete streets so that people can bike and walk. Perhaps creating more rails. I know under your leadership, Windsor's done a great job of expanding the trail in Windsor along the river. So monies to do more of those kinds of projects to help municipalities. In addition to electrifying our transportation system, that means electrifying buses, school buses, and giving more opportunities for people like you and I, who can't afford the expensive electric vehicles right now, to have monies coming in so that those cars will be cheaper and affordable.
Right.
And that's a huge impact on our health and on the safety and livability and attractiveness of our community. So there's huge benefits. So this is not just a tax where you're taxed and your money goes off to the state. These are fees that the state will collect from these polluters to help us have millions of dollars coming in to better our lives and better our communities and reduce carbon emissions that impact health.
Right.
And I would add to that too, all of these cars and trucks on our road contribute about 37% of the total emission burden in Connecticut. And this is the only sector that has not gone down in the last several years. It's gone up. And
That's right.
that's a really big problem. And the TCI directly addressed and is expected to reduce those emissions by 26% over the first 10 years of this program. And it's modeled after a program that did even better than that for the electric sector. So there is a proven model for this type of program, and it's really a win-win for the community.
So one of the things we noticed during COVID, we got the proof that emissions did affect our health.
Right.
With asthma issues, and I hear now asthma is so commonplace where it used to be a rarity, but everybody has, not everybody, but many people have different levels, of it. So we have the proof that it works, number one. Number two, one thing a constituent would ask me right now, well, you're going to take that money and you're going to do something else with it. And I only can go by what my years in the legislature, that we have not done that. And I've worked actually through the money that from the lawsuit with the tobacco companies that Senator Blumenthal had worked on. That was put into a lockbox for education, and I have followed that. And it is only used for educational purposes. It helps school systems, anything to do with education. So in my experience, I did hear that, once, I don't know, how there was a switch, but the money was put back in by the general fund. It was a thing. So that is not commonplace. And I know that the governor's, one of his priorities is climate. TCI is very much so. And I get many emails in this instance in support of it in both my towns. And the other thing, I am very proud of both Windsor and Windsor Locks, what they've been doing with the transit-oriented development, with affordable housing. And I believe that we are an example to the rest of Connecticut and what's happening in our communities. When was it? It was probably right before World War II or right after. People lived in cities. My grandparents lived in Hartford on Columbia Street. There was a little store at the end of the street. My grandmother never drove. There was a park. There was a church. They lived in communities.
Yeah.
Where my father, when he grew up, he moved to Deerfield. That was the Heights, that was the cool place to move out of the city. And we've been on that track. How can we build more roads and move traffic? And we've done all that. And I have to say, I'm proud of the upcoming generation because they're saying, we don't want that.
No.
Talk to anyone under 40 and they're saying, no. I have a niece that doesn't have a driver's license. She lives in New Jersey and they do everything through good public transportation.
Yep,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the exciting things of TCI is it would really invest more in public transportation, not just
Right.
electric infrastructure, public transportation. There's only so many buses, for example, that get out to rural areas of the state. And it's very difficult. Like, how can you not have a car if you live where there's no public transportation? So this would address that and make it more equitable throughout the state.
Right, and we've been fighting that for years, even for coming in by bus. We fought years ago through the chamber to get transportation up on Day Hill Road.
Right.
Because we found workers walking along Pequannock Avenue after their shift at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and very dangerous. And people will say, well, there's no one on the trains. Well, this is what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
When we went to Spain to visit my mother-in-law, the trains were incredible. It took 3 hours to go from Madrid to the Mediterranean all the way down. It was fast, they were clean, they were beautiful, and they were made by Alstom Power, which had been in Windsor, right?
Wow.
Oh,
That's kind of heartbreaking.
yeah.
And we need it in our town. We have someone that lives on Palisado Avenue who has some sight challenges, and he has to get a ride to the center of town so that he can take the bus into Hartford. And that brings up our new bus from the airport directly to Windsor's train station and one of the commuter lots. And are there a lot of people yet? No, but I am sure that that's what I am going to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's such a convenience.
Oh, it's so, and you're right.
I mean, parking is
Jean,
so
that's-
expensive. Sorry.
That's what younger people are looking for. And, as I age, I think about it as well. I don't want to have to be driving a car to go to a restaurant or go to a museum. I want to have access and, infrastructure in place that enables me to do the things that, keep me active in the community. So I think it's a win-win, not just for young people to attract them to the communities, but to also keep people like me from moving out.
Right.
So, and the health benefits, I think, are really significant. And you brought this up. We're seeing so much asthma now. It's just a common occurrence in the schools. I talk to school nurses and, almost every kid, and I don't mean to generalize, but a lot of kids are bringing in their inhalers every day. And when there's bad air quality, it impacts their learning. They may miss school, which impacts, parents or caregivers being able to go to work. And not only are the respiratory impacts for children severe, but also for older people who have chronic respiratory diseases, we're seeing more and more of that. And adult onset asthma, as well as I want to make sure that everyone also understands that air pollution causes cardiac problems. So as a nurse, I worked for 20 years in hospitals in cardiology and intensive care cardiothoracic surgery. And, we could do a good job of fixing you up and rerouting your arteries and putting you on a ventilator and all of that. But until we fix our air problems, our air quality, by reducing transportation emissions, we're going to continue to see cardiovascular problems, heart attacks, strokes. People don't often connect that those very serious diseases are significantly impacted by poor air quality. There's been some recent research that shows even short-term exposure, even if I'm healthy and I'm out there riding my bike, for example, in short-term periods with poor air quality, I'm getting impacted. So this is really important. And Susan was right when she said this is the sector that we can make a real difference in. We can't control all the plants out in the Midwest and the air blowing from wildfires to the east, but what we can control is transportation emissions, and it will have a huge impact on our health.
It's like 35% of the pollution, am I correct?
About 38%.
38%. Yeah. And Susan, what were you going to say?
Oh, that was way too long ago now, Jane.
Sorry, Susan.
That's all good.
I lived in Mexico City for 9 years, and the pollution there is beyond anything you can imagine. And it's 6,000 feet above sea level. Then it's surrounded by mountains. And they have festivities like in May where they burn tires.
Ooh.
Wow. And different things go on, but the smog is, if you're up here looking down, you see it on top of the city. And when I had my first child, Kate, she was born with patent ductus arteriosus, and one of the causes is pollution.
Yes.
Luckily, so it's something that is solved pretty easily. She doesn't have long-term effects like a valve. But it is actually caused by that. There's 3 reasons, but that was the one. It was living in Mexico City with all that smog. So yes, it does. I mean, it's true. It's not
true. Wow.
And there's also, there is an equity piece to all of this too, because living in Mexico City, I know what it's like living in, even bigger than Hartford or whatever. But people that live in cities or where the dumps are built near them, different things, they have more effects. This affects them more. We're living off and living a better life because they have in the cities all that. Any comments?
The highways, anywhere where there's a confluence of highways, that you're going to see higher rates of respiratory and heart issues and everything else, because that's where all the pollution is concentrated. So part of this, as you're right, part of the objectives of TCI is to invest specifically in those communities that have been overburdened by pollution.
Well, and I just have to think that living in Windsor, some of that comes towards us, right?
I would certainly think so. We're just, we're right on the edge of Hartford and we've got highways cutting through our.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
The way people drive outside my house, it feels like a highway. So.
Right.
It's true.
It does. And
a lot of trucks out there too. So.
Right on Windsor, I live on Broad Street. Yeah. And I will tell you that when it was slower times during COVID, we noticed the difference.
Yeah.
Just in even the dust that comes in, it comes in Susan on Main Avenue too.
Yep.
And it's like, you can't keep up with it,
Right.
That's right.
I'm not actually on my front porch right now. We started the program, a talk on the porch, that's what it's supposed to be like. But the noise, and they're going so fast nowadays when, like double the speed limit out front, as we've all seen. It made it really hard. What can, so people can write their legislators. I know if they have a question of me, if they've heard something on the program today, they can email me. If I don't know, I can email you guys, or they can
Absolutely.
email you directly so that we can find that out. We don't know if it's going to be heard in special session. If we're having special session, there's talk, maybe in a couple of weeks. But you can write your legislators. You can write, even if they're not your legislator, just to say, I support this. And again, if you have questions or you heard something, you don't quite believe it or whatever, send us an email to do. Are there any last comments on this? I mean, it's such a big, I know. And when we talk like infrastructure, one of the things that excites me is in our road diet that we're still trying to get funding for and do.
Yeah.
One of the things that's part of that are for traffic lights that can be controlled like inside town hall. So if people haven't realized yet that Windsor Center is one lane each way, and it's really not for through traffic from Springfield to Hartford, because that is 70% of the traffic. That is 70% of the traffic through a center of town is from outsiders.
Wow.
That you could put the signals all green to move that traffic through.
That's right.
And that's what the new technology and transportation is all about. So
That's right.
And when cars are idling, they're just dumping that pollution right in that location.
That's
So
right.
it's
and you're
to
sitting there
everyone's
breathing
benefit.
it. Right.
Yeah.
It's the people on the ground and the people in the car. It's both the benefit to kind of make more efficient streetlights.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I say for our children, for our grandchildren, for us, for our pets.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I know we don't really talk about the pets, but they're
You know how
breathing
much
it
I love
too.
my dachshunds, my dachshund Otto. And if he's living here with me, he's being affected the same way.
Absolutely.
He's little, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
Right.
Yes. They
Yep,
get
and
the
there's-
same respiratory and cardiac issues that we do. And,
right.
we
And
don't always treat them, but that's exactly right. It
and the
really is a
smaller body. Oh,
win-win.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and
No,
I was going to say the smaller bodies, whether it's an animal or the little
baby.
people, there's daycares right around the corner for me here.
That's
so-
right.
There's one right on the street here from me too. 2 houses down, they do a home daycare. So, yeah, so this is really important to understand. If they wanted to read something, we all know that there's things out there that are true, not true. What would be a good place to go or a website to read about this? Do either of you know? Offhand?
Tomas has so on the website, we can share the link with you. There's a lot of fact sheets and all different information about it, and we'd be happy to. I know Tomas couldn't join us this morning, but we can share that link. And as you said, I know Susan could answer any questions. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
So I'll get her information so he can put our emails and our names at the end of
that's great.
the program, and then people can reach out. Yes, Tomas from Clean Water, from Save the Sound could not be here with us today. And the sound is, the ocean is my favorite place. That's my happy place, is the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's in danger, not only from climate change and the water rising, but just, killing off
sorts of
everything,
things.
basically. And I got to put a plug in for windmills, because I hear so much, they're noisy, they kill all the fish, they do. We took a tour of Block Island, the ones out there, and we were right under the propellers and you could not hear them.
Yeah.
And then from our guide that had built an ecosystem around them, that fishermen actually come close to there to fish, because there's just so much, and this great ecosystem has been created. And in Spain, when you travel from Madrid to the south, you're talking 5 hours of it's olive trees and windmills.
Yep.
And
exactly.
they're beautiful. I see them as beautiful. Not only do they do a beautiful thing, so there's a lot out there that we can do.
A lot. Yep.
I want to thank you both for all the work that you both do. It's not, you have, not only is it your work, and for Susan, your passion and work that, you know, that we have advocates and people that can tell us, you know, what's really happening and what you're seeing. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Happy to do it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your leadership.
I'm happy to do it, and we'll see what happens in special session. So thank you again.
Okay. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you,
you.
everyone, for
Thank you,
watching.
Ann. Take care.
And we hope to see you next week on the porch.